As long as you've got enough money, retirement should be an absolute walk in the park, right? I'd suggest that's wrong. Whilst having enough financially is definitely a major part of the puzzle, I'd suggest there's one element of stepping into retirement we just don't talk about enough. Because loads of people talk about money, about physical health, about community and social well-being, and certainly we think they're all important component parts to play when thinking about either retirement or what happens next in our lives. But there's one factor that we just don't seem to talk about, and that's mindset. So in this video, I want to explore your retirement mindset and explain why your attitudes, beliefs and stories you tell yourself about the world will contribute to either a great retirement journey or a not so great one. And I'm going to share a bunch of practical tips that can help you plan and prepare your mindset for the best retirement or what happens next ever. Welcome to What Happens Next. It's interesting. When I think about the biggest difference between someone who is living their best What Happens Next life and someone who isn't enjoying their next stage of their life so much, there's one major difference typically between the two. Now, you'd probably guess that difference is money. And whilst having enough money is definitely a hygiene factor, and it's important to make sure we consider that, someone with loads of money isn't always exponentially happier. Typically, physical health has an impact, and you assume that those who retire with decent health will enjoy their lives more. And sometimes that's true, but people with amazing levels of health in retirement aren't always happy. And it's not even about social connections or family. Often the biggest difference between someone who's having a great retirement or what happens next versus a mediocre or poor one is their mindset. It's the stories we tell ourselves about the world. It's our beliefs, our attitudes, and our mental frameworks which have a massive impact on the quality of the next stage of our lives. So in this video, I want to talk about the mindset shifts that allow us to live and thrive in retirement or whatever happens next. And I want to start with a really interesting one. That's both ambition and its relationship to curiosity. Now, there's a great explanation from the neuroscientist Anne-Laurie Lecomte that talks about the relationship with these two things. Because having an experimental mindset, the one that's going to help you thrive in retirement, the one where you're trying new stuff, treating it as an experiment and working out whether it fits into your life, takes two things. That's high ambition and high curiosity. An experimental mindset involves trying things at actually a low financial or time cost to you to better understand what sort of life you want to live in this next chapter. However, before we talk about what practical things you should consider with an experimental mindset, it's worth exploring the two traits of ambition and curiosity. If you've got a high level of curiosity and a high level of ambition, you are in that experimental mindset. And there's a brilliant Big Think video where Anne-Laurie talks about the fact that people with low curiosity and low ambition are typically the cynics, the people who think everything's going to go wrong, live their lives cynically and critically, and don't thrive in retirement. They're the ones typically among us who like an argument about irrelevant matters, focus on doom scrolling, and continuously read negative news. And we've all been there at one point in time, but my suggestion would be that's not a healthy attitude to have in retirement. The next quadrant you can be in is the escapist mindset, where you've got high curiosity and low ambition. This is the mindset with lofty goals and dreams, but not much positive action towards achieving those goals. The next quadrant is the perfectionist mindset, one where you want to take action to move forward, but actually you're not prepared to take the risk you need to work out the best next chapter of your life. And Anne-Laurie in the Big Think video that I'll put a link to in the comments below argues pretty powerfully that high ambition and high curiosity allow you to try new things, fail, learn what's going to work for you, and then incorporate those things in the next chapter of your life. However, if you find yourself stuck in a cynical, escapist, or perfectionist mindset, there's one mindset shift on top of the one we've already spoke about, which is worth discussing. That's the shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. I first read about fixed and growth mindset in an amazing book, simply called Mindset, by Carol Dweck. A fixed mindset is a belief, effectively a story we tell ourselves, that our talents, abilities and intelligence are fixed traits. You're either born with them or you're not. In contrast, a growth mindset is an understanding that your skills and capabilities can be developed over time through effort, learning and persistence. This mindset shifts your internal narrative from I can't to I can't yet, creating space for incremental growth and discovery at any age and any time in our lives. If you've got a fixed mindset, the desire to try new things as an experiment is probably low because you see those experiments as a risk. But as Carol Dweck's research shows, those with a growth mindset activate their brain when faced with mistakes and use these moments to improve, whereas fixed mindset individuals don't often learn from their mistakes as well. Also, interestingly, a fixed mindset often demands perfection. After all, if it's not perfect, what's the point? That can lead to procrastination, paralysis, or even quitting. A growth mindset and that more experimental approach that comes with a growth mindset and the ability to just try stuff and take what works and you run with it and then take what doesn't and not running with it, iteration and evolution from those things allows you to live the life you want. As we've discussed, if you're approaching that chapter in your life where you're thinking about what happens next in your 50s and 60s, and conventional models of retirement aren't for you, but you're really thinking about what's next, adopting that experimental and growth mindset are a dynamite way of starting the next chapter. Whereas perfectionist or cynical mindsets, along with the fixed mindsets, definitely won't put you on the right path. One of the easiest ways to embrace a growth mindset is to understand the areas of your well-being you might want to work and improve on. The good news is that we've developed a quiz you can do for free over at www.whathappensnext.live. There's a link in the comments as well. And what that will help you do is understand what areas of well-being you're really strong at, but where you might have gaps and what you can actually do to fill those gaps. I think the important thing is holding up a mirror to where you are currently so that you can help make positive change in your life. And actually the quiz might help you with that. You can find the quiz in the comments below, or alternatively, if you're watching on the screen and you've got your phone in hand, simply take a photo of this QR code and it will take you directly to the quiz, which you can do immediately. Now, there's a few practical actions you can take to move closer to a growth mindset from a fixed mindset. And the first one is to use the word yet, Y-E-T, a bit more. Instead of saying, I can't do this, try, I can't do this yet. The reality is any skill or knowledge base can be learned. And actually saying, I can't do this puts a limit on your ability, whereas I can't do this yet recognises the fact that you can't do it today, but you have the ability to learn all about it. Secondly, and this is one I actually still struggle with a bit, look at tough situations through a lens of learning. I say to the guys at Develop My Financial Planning Practice, and I've got to remind myself of it sometimes, every opportunity for feedback is either a win or a learn. Try using the phrase, what is this experience teaching me, instead of why is this negative thing happening to me. Thirdly, and this is one to try with your kids and grandkids too, praise effort, not talent. Instead of "you're so clever," which implies that somebody's got the innate skills to do something and effort doesn't make a difference, try saying "you made a real effort" or "you worked really hard." And I'm saying that in terms of self-talk, what you tell yourself as well as what you tell others. The third big mindset shift I'd recommend you consider when you're thinking about what happens next is an identity fixed in work to an identity rooted in your skills and values. One of the hardest shifts many of us make in our lives, particularly in our 50s and 60s, and we're in that state of flux, is letting go of the identity that you've held for most of your working life. We often underestimate how much of our self-worth is wrapped up in our job titles, or how we answer the question, which you and I have probably heard a million times at dinner parties or at events. So, what do you do? The mindset shift here is moving from defining yourself by what you did to anchoring your sense of self in who you are and what you value, but also what you can bring to the world. Maybe it's creativity. Maybe it's contribution. Maybe it's the skills you've learned that you want to share. Whatever it is, the shift allows you to design a life that still feels meaningful and energizing, even if the structure is a bit different to what it was before. The good news is that if you're still struggling with a shift in identity the next chapter often brings, we've got a great video that talks about that. You can find it here. And in this video, I explain the concept of eudaimonia and how it's an important factor you need to consider when thinking about what happens next in your life. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you on the channel soon.